Welcome, everybody, to Pseudo Short number 6 for March 31st, 2017. I am your podcast host, Josh Kaiser, and joining me in this very special Pseudo Short today, Josh Haddix.
Hello.
And our live streaming counterpart, Kyle Hoagland.
What is going on? How many Pseudo Shorts have we done where it's been all three of us?
I think half.
I think we kind of are trying to stray away from that, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, if it's one of those things, for those of you who are not aware, our Pseudo Shorts are our mini podcasts on the off week. We keep them between, I say about 20 minutes, but I feel like most of them have been going about a half hour. But it's a way to give you guys content on our off weeks when we're not doing our full 90-minute podcast. And they're kind of sometimes topics that we can't spend a full episode discussing. And this week's going to be kind of doing a little bit different. Some of you maybe even who are listening to this may have even watched it live, because we are currently live streaming with Kyle, which I guess, Kyle, before we kind of break down your thoughts on Zelda's Breath of the Wild, which will be the point of this short, why don't you spend a minute or so just kind of discussing the stream for those of the podcast listeners that may not follow us on Twitter and stuff, which you should be at Pseudo Nerd Pod, but give them a little idea of what the stream's all about.
So, I mean, really, the stream it's something I've always wanted to do. It's been like an interest of mine for a long time to do a stream of some sort. And I think it's just when we had our little meeting back in December 2016, where we were, discussing, what else could we possibly do to help promote the podcast, because that is the primary objective of this stream, is to promote the podcast. Now, obviously, I'm having fun playing video games. I would do that anyways. But it was just something that we have our YouTube channel. All of our podcasts are on our YouTube channel, and I think we were just trying to branch out a little bit and see what else we could offer. With our YouTube channel, and YouTube gaming came out. It's been exploding. It's not quite there as much as Twitch, but it's definitely getting a big following. And yeah, the whole point is I play video games anyway, so I mean, this has been just a no-brainer to at least try out, anyways.
How have you enjoyed the streaming aspect? Like, what is it, other than playing the video game, how is it, does it feel weird, sitting there, knowing people are watching you?
It's not too bad. I talk to myself anyways when I play video games, so it just seems like now I can just do it, and
now you'll be less weird doing it. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. It's actually kind of when you kind of get into something where it's almost like to the point of like a hobby, where you're reading everything about it, you're trying to figure out like the best settings, what's the best capture card to get, like that kind of stuff was really, really fun for me to do for a bit, because I think I started streaming January 7th, but I was actually doing a lot of test streaming before then, like November and December. I was doing some streaming. I just wasn't putting anything public because I was just trying to find out, I was trying to just fine tune everything, because we don't have a huge following yet, like a high subscriber count yet. So the thing that I wanted to at least offer was to give a quality stream. And I think I'm at least doing that, where I've seen a lot of grainy, kind of questionable streams from people who have a huge following. And I think they just do it because they're bored. They're not actually doing it to be entertaining or to provide content. They're just doing it to do it. I actually do want to provide some sort of, quality when I stream.
Unlike the podcast where you don't bring anything of quality to it.
No, right? I phone that in 100%.
Okay, well, enough about the stream itself. The point of this is sort of like a live Q&A session about Breath of the Wild, kind of getting your, first thoughts. Obviously, you've not beaten the game, so it's not a total complete review, but it's a review so far. And it's best of the three of us for you to be the one doing it because you are, by and far, our Zelda expert. You have played and beaten most of the iterations of Zelda, at least the console versions, anyways.
I think Minish Cap or whatever, I think is the only one I've never finished. Everything else I've played.
Okay. Well, let's start out with the easy one. Initial thoughts of Breath of the Wild. How does it hold up against the others? What are your initial impressions?
Well, I think the first thing I had to think about was, are they going to make like a step towards giving offering kind of a different game feel? I feel like you had your kind of your 2D side scroll, because that's what Zelda used to be. It was Super Nintendo was a side scrolling adventure that you can go north, south, east, or west. It's kind of like quadrants. And then when Ocarina of Time came out, it became a little bit more open world, which was nice. But I think the thing I was curious about with Breath of the Wild was, are they going to create a fresh feeling to Zelda? Now, it's still kind of open world. It still kind of feels like, Ocarina of Time, Skyward Sword, all that stuff. But what's really awesome about this game is that it's really, really open world. There's no linear path. Other games, like, you had to collect 3 pendants, and then you got the pendants, you got the Master Sword, and then you would go to this other area where you would collect 8 other things to then unlock to get to Ganon. So there was a path you had to do in order to get to Ganon. Breath of the Wild, you could literally beat this game in 45 minutes if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's what I thought I had heard early on was a lot of the initial speed runs. People were beating it in an hour, and it was an hour and a half, and then the next person would come in and beat it in an hour and 15 and so on. And I haven't looked it up recently.
I think 46 minutes is the fastest anyone's done. It's so funny because they're literally going in there, no shirt, nothing, just basically running in there with shorts or pants and picking up whatever items that they just are just getting on the way to Ganon's and fighting Ganon with the minimum amount of health, the minimum amount of weapons, and they find a way. Because here's the other thing too. There's 4 main dungeons in this game. But there's hundreds of what's called shrines. They're like mini dungeons. And the mini dungeons are there to power you up. If you finish 4 of them, each one you get a spirit token, and once you get 4 spirit tokens, you can then choose to upgrade either your health, which would be like the traditional heart containers in the other Zelda games, or you can choose to increase your stamina, which would be to increase your running and increase your ability to climb. Because there are certain things in the game that if you want to unlock, you have to climb over really high mountains, and you can't climb them with the standard stamina. So you have to increase that in order to unlock everything in this game. Now, the actual bosses, the actual 4 dungeons, and it doesn't seem like, it's just 4 dungeons, but that's the whole point, is that there's hundreds of mini little dungeons, like puzzle shrines, and then you've got these 4, concentrated dungeons with a boss at the end of it, and every boss you beat, you take off 1/8 of Ganon's health when you fight him later. So, and I don't mean to spoil, obviously, if you're watching this, there's a little bit of a spoiler. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so it's almost one of those, it makes the final fight easier if you go through and do everything else that's asked for it. But otherwise, you can do it on super hard mode if you go, guns a-blazing early on.
Right, yeah, you put Ganon at 50% of his health at the start because you activate these weapons from each of the dungeons that shoot at him. So if you unlock all 4, that's 1/8 apiece, that's 4/8, that's half his health. So then all you have to do is knock out...
Who didn't say we put the nerd in Pseudo Nerd right there with some math skills for you guys out there?
That's 4/8.
You're welcome. That's 4/8 or 1/2. If you're trying to do the what's that? What do they call that when it's 4/8, but you gotta bring it down
lowest common denominator or
something like
reduced
that.
Fraction,
compound fraction or whatever the case is. That sounds like a broken.
That's
anyways.
That's when the larger number's on top, right?
I think so. I don't know, man. We've been out.
Apparently,
of the
we
game
took
for
the
a
nerd
long time.
out of pseudo nerd now by not knowing basic algebra.
I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to talk about math.
Okay, well let's
yeah,
talk more about the game itself. Let's just get into gameplay. It's obviously very open world, and it's as open world as a Zelda's been, because, like you said, you can go pretty much anywhere from the beginning. Where previous ones you could kind of go in some places, but usually there was you would need a particular thing
in order to get there later, like a hook shot or a hammer or something like that you had to have.
And there's no Magic Johnson here for the hook shot, right?
Exactly. Like you had to go to a specific dungeon to get that treasure in order to get to this other part of the world. And where in this game, the only thing you need to get to all the parts in the world is stamina. Is doing the shrines and increasing your stamina. Once you get the paraglider in this game, you literally can go wherever you want. The only thing that's limiting you is your life and your stamina at that point.
So, what are your thoughts on combat? Is it pretty similar to previous Zeldas, or?
It is. It's a kind of a double-edged sword, but it's one of the least hand-holding games I've ever of the Zelda games. Usually, they'll tell you. Sorry, just talking to input in this game. The whole point of it, though, is that all the other Zelda games, there's a little bit of a tutorial of like Z targeting and how to jump and dodge and strafe and do all of your attacks. There is none of that in this game. You kind of figure that out on your own. But luckily, it is very, very similar to the other Zelda games. So if you've played the other Zelda games, it'll feel very, very comfortable.
So one thing I noticed in just watching you do some of these streams, and Haddix, by the way, feel free to jump in with any questions along the way here, but the weapons in this game, you plow through weapons left and right. You get them off of villains and mobs that you kill. You pick them up off the ground. They could be sticks, they could be spears, swords, what have you. But they all have durability, and I'm fine with the idea of durability. I've played many games that have durability. Typically, when a weapon breaks, you can go back and get it repaired. But this is one of those games where it breaks and it's gone forever. But you have so many that you basically are breaking weapons left and right. And for me, that seems really annoying, like an annoying mechanic.
Oh, it's annoying.
So, okay,
it's annoying.
That was going to be my question, is what were your feelings on that?
It's, what? I wouldn't call it a fault. It's just really annoying. It's a survival game. It's almost like survival to a fault, where you find a way to kill like that first boss with a stick. Like your first weapon is literally a stick you find on the ground. You use that stick to kill like the first mob you get who might have been holding a slightly stronger weapon, like maybe an actual club, something that was fashioned into a weapon. And then you would use that weapon to go around and looking for other guys who have, maybe one of them might have a shield, they might have a bow, and then you kind of start collecting your arsenal of weapons. Like right now, I have, I think, like 5 or 6 melee weapons. I've got like 6 bows. So it's not like if a weapon breaks, you don't have a weapon anymore. You have weapons, and you kind of have to be smart with your weapons. Where if you find a really good one, you almost don't want to use it yet. You kind of want to save it. If you're running around just killing just regular jabroni guys, you don't want to go finding this like crazy powerful weapon that you can use to knock them all out with one hit, because you're slowly but surely destroying, taking out the durability of that weapon. You would rather save that for when you really need it. There's a lot of like mini world bosses that are kind of just patrolling around Hyrule, and you might just run into one, and the last thing you want to have to deal with is you're running around with a stick fighting this really powerful creature. So I think I have maybe 3 of my melee weapons and by melee, like, you get spears, there are magical wands, like rods, and then there's, swords and things like that, and 2-handed swords. And there's probably about 3 of them right now that are really good that I'm not touching. So I'll break my other weapons and then kind of just pick up garbage weapons as I go.
Is there a place to repair weapons if you want to, or no? You just, if you use it, it breaks and you're done.
There's no place to repair your weapons as far as I'm concerned. I think if there's a place to repair your weapons, I don't think anybody would be complaining about broken weapons, to be honest.
Well, I mean, I didn't know if it was one of those like they just break so fast that it's not worth it.
Well,
Or
there are
you
like I said,
find
there
a
are
really
some
good
weapons
one.
that break real fast, and then there are some that have a decent durability. Like you can get like a decent sword, but then you also it's called like the rusty version of that sword. Like I'll get like a knight's broadsword, and then I'll get like the rusty knight's broadsword, and it does the same exact damage. It just it has like half the durability. It'll break.
Is
very
there
easily.
musical instruments in this game?
I have not found one yet.
So there's no rusty trombones or anything?
There's no.
You like that kind
You know,
of...
and here's the thing. I know you really haven't played any of the Zelda, so I don't know why I even thought that what you were saying was going to
That
be
was a
anything.
joke.
What's funny is when he asked, I go, "Oh, that's a great question," because the ocarina's quite famous, and there's been a lot
The
of
Wind Waker.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
the
there's
Wind
been a
Waker
lot of
was a
music
weapon.
in Zelda games, and it was actually a very legitimate question. Never saw
And I was
that
trying to
coming.
answer it legitimately, and you just shat all over it. Thank
Dude,
you.
that was, you got to admit, that was a good one. All right, that was a good one.
Yeah, that was pretty good. So, Kyle, one thing is the map, obviously, if anybody hasn't seen, you can go online and look at the comparison of the Breath of the Wild world map compared to previous Zelda games, and you can fit all of the other Zelda games inside like 10 times. It's this one is vastly bigger. But
I don't remember how many hours I played. I mean, right now, this is my 6th stream, and I stream 2 hours. So we're talking 12 hours by the end of this. But I've played probably an extra 3 to 4 on the train. So we're talking, I played 16 hours by the time this is all said and done tonight. I have not done a single beast, like Divine Beast dungeon. I have, like, it's just because as soon as I find something interesting, I will just continue exploring. The completionist is going to love and hate this game because there's just so much to look, to find, and explore, and you don't have to explore any of it. Like I said, 45 minutes you can get out of this game if you're good enough to do it. But if you really want to, get your money's worth of this game, and really, right now the Nintendo Switch isn't exactly, touting a bunch
pumping
of
out
awesome
a bunch
games
of big
right
titles,
now. Yeah, so you might as well just take advantage of it and just go through everything. I'm taking my sweet time with this game for sure.
The streamers know
but
that.
Once again, I've beaten Ocarina of Time in under 18 hours. And here I am, I'm almost 16 hours in, and I have not even done the first beast yet.
So that's what I was going to ask you, because admittedly I don't, part of it is your time slot being on the West Coast. I don't get to, I watch you sometimes before I go to bed at night, so I don't stay up and watch all the streams. And, I don't always get to see all the streams anyways. And I was, you said you haven't done any of the beasts yet, so that partly answers my question is, previous Zeldas are known for their temples or their dungeons, and you said there's the shrines, which I've seen you do, and those are almost like mini little puzzles, and they don't, you might be in one.
Some are real easy, and some are actually decently difficult, because what they do at the very beginning of the game, when you get your Sheikah Slate, you unlock a lot of abilities. You have bombs that you can, on a cooldown, but you basically have an unlimited supply of bombs. You can grab metal items and move them around using magnetism. You can make ice pillars from the water. So there's a lot of cool things that you get right from the start, because what they're telling you is you can now travel anywhere you want, and no matter where you are, you have all the tools you need to do this shrine. No matter if the shrine is right at the beginning or if the shrine is at the far ends of Hyrule. It doesn't matter. You already have everything you need to go through them. And there have been some shrines that were laughably easy. There are some that are just straight up, you go in and you just kind of fight a little bit of a mini boss. And that's it. You kill him, you go to the next room, you get your spirit orb. Other ones are a little bit more on the puzzle side. Some are kind of easy. Some, I have to give a shout out to Nate, because he was on the stream, and he basically walked me through 2 of them and called me a moron on the stream. But it's just little things one thing that's really cool about this game so far, especially with these shrines, is that if you think something might work, it probably will work. You know what I mean? If you have these, if you're being creative with your ways of solving a shrine, I've seen videos of shrines and I did it in a way that these guys didn't do it. I overthought it.
Right. There's multiple ways to. Yeah, there's many ways to get there. Many ways to skin a cat, as they would say.
I was going to say that.
I was holding my tongue there.
Cat got your tongue?
Is it 20 minutes yet?
It actually almost right on the nose it is. But so, Haddix, any questions on your end that you were curious about, or you think that somebody who'd be getting into this game might want to know about?
Or even Switch questions, because honestly, like, this is the only game I'm playing on the Switch. If you got any questions regarding even like recommendations on the Switch, or what's the game like in regards to the hardware? One
question I had about the hardware, because I've read a little bit here and there. Have you had any issues with your left Joy-Con not syncing up properly or dropping connection from time to time?
So I can't answer that, only because I only have Zelda. I have a Pro controller. I've never needed to sync the left and right Joy-Con for any game yet. You know what I mean? Like the only time that would really happen is if you would separate them.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've played on the handheld itself, but once again, they're fixed into
right.
The
It's when you're playing with the Joy-Con separate from the Switch, right? Isn't that when people are having the issues, when it's hooked to a television and you've got the Joy-Con separately or something, that there's a syncing issue?
Right. It's like if you're playing like 1-2 Switch and one person's playing, there's a guy I've never heard of before. It's like a blue lizard guy. He's got a sweet looking sword. I'm about to get that. Anyways, back to what we were saying. Yeah, like I don't have 1-2 Switch, so like a lot of those games where you would use both sides of the controller to have two players. Yeah, I've definitely seen people complain about it. I personally can't say yes or no yet about it.
So this guy tells me to ask him questions about the Switch and can't even answer to the first one I ask him.
Well, like I said, I don't think it's globally happening everywhere. I mean,
I think it's frequent enough that they're, from what I've heard, I mean, there's enough people complaining about it that it needs to be addressed by Nintendo. I think it's widespread enough that there is some issue.
Sure, and I agree. I think right now I haven't experienced it because I've never needed to unhook them. My other friends at work, I have about probably six or seven people that I know who have it, who also have 1-2 Switch, and I think Snipper Clips is the other game. They said they've had no problems with their left Joy-Con. The only thing they found problems with is if there's something in the way, like if you put your finger in the front where it's blocking. There's a piece of metal inside the controller, I believe they said, that is kind of interfering. And then if you also put your hand or your finger in front of the sensor, it'll every once in a while, especially if you're far away from your console. If you're really close to it, then it almost never has a problem, though.
Okay, well, that's good. One question that I just, as I'm watching you play the stream, I'm trying to think about Zelda-related questions, and one that just came to my mind is, this is the first Zelda that has voice acting in it, to a bigger regard than previous ones. What has been your impression so far on that?
Well, Link does not talk, and that was the one thing I felt like if you're going to introduce voice acting, please don't give Link a voice. He's never. It's just never. It's iconic that he does not have like actual. He never ever actually speaks words, because the whole point of it is that you're Link, so you don't talk. Like you're not part of the dialogue. You are making the decision of what he does and says. So because of that, I think that's one of the reasons why Nintendo has never felt like giving him like a voice. Now, everybody else in this game, as far as I've seen so far, does have a voice.
So hold on a second. I thought, aren't you Zelda in this game? Isn't that why it's called Zelda?
I'm not answering your question. I know better than to be trolled like that. But Zelda has a voice. From what I've been told too, that people have been liking overall the voice acting. I think there's a couple guys I haven't met yet that I have seen on another video. I was trying to stay away from spoilers, but that seemed like some people kind of phoned it in. Like, it's not great, but Zelda's voice actor is really good. And like I said, a couple other the characters are good too.
Have you heard Ganon at all?
Here's the thing about Ganon. Ganon in this game, from what I've seen, has no speaking parts. He is, because he's literally like just like evil incarnate. He's not Ganondorf from Wind Waker, or not Wind Waker. Well, I guess yeah, Ganondorf was in Wind Waker, and he was in Ocarina of Time. I think a version of Ganondorf was also in Skyward Sword. So with that, it made sense for him to have a voice because he was actually like a humanoid type of person. In this game, he is known as Calamity Ganon, and he's basically like almost like a flying purple cloud of evil that I'm sure manifests into some sort of, amalgamation later. But I don't think he has a voice, or at least I have not seen it yet.
Look at you throwing on the word amalgamation.
No,
You're welcome.
seriously.
Bringing that nerd back. I don't know what 4/8 is, but I know what amalgamation is.
Has the concept of the blood moon in this game that you like went off on one night, is that in every Zelda game?
No. And the reason why is because in this game, the whole point of it is to replenish the world. When you kill people in this game, they're gone. They're dead forever. And then the whole point of the red moon, or whatever that was called, the blood moon, is to add those characters back into the game somehow.
Have they ever explained what that is, or is it literally just a game mechanic that replenishes?
The first time it happens, they explain that Zelda was unable to keep Ganon quelled for a couple of minutes, and he casted the blood moon, which summons all of his creatures back. And I think they also have like an increased like power, during like that short period of time that they're back. So it's happened before where I've cleared a whole like camp full of them, and then as I'm like collecting all my spoils, the blood moon happens and they all pop up again. Now they're roided out, and I had basically to run away because they would have killed me.
One other question I had that just came to me as well is inventory. You're obviously picking up weapons left and right. I think I saw that you had like 1,000 clubs and swords and bows and things like that. Obviously, Link must have some giant pockets. Is there ever a point where his inventory is full and he cannot carry any more, and then you have to start deciding what to keep and not?
Well, that's definitely part of the survival part of it. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 9 weapon slots for my melee weapon. If I find a 10th weapon, it'll tell me I can't carry anymore. But if it's a good weapon, I might have to make a decision on dropping one of my other weapons. And you just throw it on the ground and you pick up another weapon. I think I have the same. There is a mechanic in this game that's totally optional, that if you find these little like Korok guys that look like little green leafy dudes. Oh god, my weapon just broke in front of all these guys. If you find enough of them, they will give you an item that if you have 4 of them, you can talk to like their leader. And his ability is he'll take 4 of these, or I think it's just 1. He'll take a seed and he'll use it, and he'll increase your inventory slots for either your shields, your bows, or your weapon.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
Then you also kind of, it's a little bit of a strategy there too, where you don't know how many of these seeds you're going to get, so you kind of have to make a decision on what is important for you to have extras of. Right now, for me, I think it's weapons at this point.
That makes sense. As we kind of winding down here at the end of this pseudo short, Haddix, do you have any final questions that you have for Kyle in regards to either Breath of the Wild or the Nintendo Switch that he probably can't answer?
I was saying I have some real in-depth Nintendo Switch ones, but I'll just wait to ask somebody who actually knows what they're talking about. But no,
you're a terrible liar.
I do not have any further questions.
Okay, Kyle, I guess we can leave you on this question here. You've logged 16 hours. You've completion-wise, maybe 15% of the game, 10%, somewhere in that vicinity. It sounds like. So you don't have a ton to speak on as far as, end game and full details, but what is your thoughts right now? If you had early rankings, where would you put this in the realm of Zelda games?
Well, I've been playing this game for, like I said, it's about 16 hours, and I have no intention of slowing down at all. Like I've loved every bit of it, and it's great that I'm nowhere near getting the end of it. It is, to me, as far as like before this game, I think Wind Waker was probably my favorite, followed by Ocarina of Time, and this game blows both of them out of the water.
And that's saying a lot because Wind Waker is almost entirely in water.
You know what? That's good. No, that's good. That's good. I like that. But there's a reason why almost every place has rated this game like a 9 or a 10, and has already been talking about game of the year, game of the century type of game. It's just like everything that everybody wanted in a Zelda game. A couple nuances, like the little things, like the voice acting and the durability system and stuff like that. But everything else is fine-tuned. It is the developers deserve so much praise with this game. The music's good enough, but it's just it's like the perfect choose your own adventure game that's a Zelda game. It's like Skyrim meets Zelda, and it's a fantastic game.
Well, high praise from Kyle. If you guys have further questions or want to see it, yourself, feel free, first of all, to reach out to us on Twitter or Facebook, pseudonerdpod.com. You can find all of our social media accounts. Follow us on iTunes. Leave us that review. We always appreciate that. And also, especially when it comes to Breath of the Wild and Kyle's input, feel free to follow him on all of his streaming nights. And Kyle, I will always refer to you on this. What are your days and times for streaming, so that people who may be interested can give you a follow and ask any questions and check you out live.
Well, apparently one person who's not interested is Kaiser. I stream on Sundays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Wednesdays I reserve those for World of Warcraft, and then Sunday and Thursday is the game that I'm normally playing right now. It's Breath of the Wild. Next week, well, I guess this is coming out next week, so I guess it really doesn't matter because I'll be back by Tuesday. So I won't be streaming on that following Sunday, but I'll be back to streaming again on Wednesday. There
you have it. From the Great Lakes to the Golden Gate.
For now.
I am Josh Kaiser. He is Josh Haddix, and he is Kyle Hoagland. And we will see you guys next time.
Have a good Friday.
Yeah.